Welcome back everybody. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a Save Table button to your Dash AG Grid table. So this Dash app will have three different elements besides the AG Grid table. The first element will be the dropdown with all the data sets on your computer that you could choose from to populate the data. You see how 22 male changes to female 34, so this is a different data set. The second element will have a text field where you can name your new data set or your new CSV sheet. And then you'll have the Save Table button that if you click on, it will save the data. In this case, no name was provided or the name was empty, so it doesn't save anything. But if you save it, this data set, let's change it to female 99-year-old and female 88-year-old, and then save it. My new data, and then you have a new data set. Data saved, well done. I can go right here and we see that now we have my new data inside our data folder with the new data. So like always, to get started and to follow along, I recommend you go into my Coding with Adam GitHub repo. Don't forget to fork it or star it if you like it. And go into the AG Grid folder. I'll have this link under the video. And go into the Save Table. This is a folder we're going to look in today. Download the app.py file, or just copy everything, select all, copy, and put it inside PyCharm, inside an app.py file. The only other thing you will need is create a data folder, and then just put three different, it doesn't have to be this, just put three different CSV files in there. Okay, so once you're set, once you have a Save Table folder and an app.py in the root, and then a data folder with some CSV sheets in there, you should be able to run this file. The only reason this might not work is if you didn't install AG Grid. To install AG Grid, I do pip install -AG Grid, and then this number. This is an alpha version number 4. This might change in the future, so I would recommend installing number 4, even if you're watching this video many days from now. Also install -bootstrap and install pandas, and then you can just run this file, Python app, and it should work. Okay, so once you have this file running, we can go into the app.py file and code and start analyzing it a little bit. Let me explain to you what is going on. So the first thing we do that's different than in other AG Grid videos is we're importing OS because we need to access the CSV files that are inside the data folder. So for this, I will do this loop inside a list, right? And I'll go into the os.walk, and then I'll put the path in there. And this path will be different on your computer. So it won't run, this app won't run successfully until you change this path. And how do I get to this path? I know my file is right here. Save data, AG Grid, save table. Here are my files data. So I just did like this. I copied, I selected all, I copied, and this is my path, right? Well, without the C, it was just users, right? I have a Windows machine. On Windows, you need a double backslash. Okay, this is why we have this right here. So make sure if you're on Windows, it's double backslash. If you're on Mac, you'll probably need only one or /, I'm not sure, but probably not double backslash. So I just did double backslash, and then I have my path. And since I have my path, now I can extract the path, the subdirectory, and the files. I'm only interested in the files, so I'll have a list of files, and I'll call this datasets. And if you'll see, this is actually a nested list. We can Go right here, save it, and you'll see that we have a nested list right here. So I just want the first and only list number 0, the one inside of it, and this will print dataset 0. This will print a list of all my files. Okay, all the CSV sheets inside this. So now that I have a list of strings, like 3 different strings that represent CSV files, now we can use this datasets list in the first drop-down, right? Here's the first drop-down that we have, which is this one right here. And it's inside the options property, we're going to assign this list, the nested list, dataset 0, all of these three files, right? So if you click on this, you'll see the 3 different files. And then the first value will be the first value inside that list. So it'll be finance survey. So if you do like this, you'll see that if you refresh, you'll see this is the first value that comes up inside the drop down. We have a placeholder, which you actually don't necessarily need. We can hashtag this out because clearable false. We can never clear this data. We can't click an X here and have nothing in the drop down. We need a certain file chosen to display the data in the data table. Okay, so now let's figure out how everything is working, how things are displayed and how things are being connected to actually display the data and save the data. Let's go all the way back up. I'm going to skip this part, row 17 to 267. All of this is just defining the columns of the data table, the AG grid, defining the default definitions of columns, and then creating the AG grid table. This I will say for a different video, introduction to AG grid. I don't want to go too much into this. You can just copy paste this code to create this table. There's also a lot of information on community.plotly.com, on the Plotly forum. You can read a lot about AG grid and how to create that table. So let's go inside the layout, row 70 to 133. Inside the layout, you'll see that we have our investment survey. So it's the first div right here. And then we have our first row. And the row will include everything above the alert. So all of this is one row. Everything right here is one row. And inside this row, we'll have a card, right? Everything goes inside this card. All of this is a card. And inside the card, we'll have a card header. And this card header will have the drop down, the DCC drop down, this one right here, with the options and the value. We'll style the color black so the text is black. And then we have the card body. And inside the card body, first we have the table, this whole table, and this table refers to the AG grid table. And under the table, I created rows and columns because I want this to be only this input field, DBC input, to only be 6 columns wide, or half of this row, and then this to be 1/4, right? The button only 1/4. It's only going to be right here. Instead of being all the way to the end, it's only 1/4. 3 out of 12 columns. So in this DBC input, we have placeholder save as, instructing the user of the app to give it a name. Then the type will be text. This will be a text type input and not number or email or password, but just text. The value will be none because when we load the app, you don't want anything in there. It'll just be none or empty. And then class name will be MT4, which is margin top 2. So you'll see there's a little bit of space between the DCC and the table. Okay, and then we have the button right next to it. It's called Save Table. Color blue, primary is blue, and then sizes is medium. It's not a large button. And then we have the alert at the very bottom. Is open false, so you cannot see it. You will only see it inside when we trigger is open true inside the callback. Okay, so now that you understand the layout and how the app is displaying the drop down, the table, the input, and the save button, now let's go into the two callbacks that allow us to retrieve the data and display it in the table. You see how this changes, and to save the data. So let's first look at the retrieve data set. Make this a little bit bigger for you. Retrieve data set to display in table. So the input is going to be the value component property of this component, retrieve data set. So let's go to see where is the retrieve data set. It's the first drop down, and we're going to take the value, right? So the value is the first, in this case, it's the first data set. It's the first CSV. It's actually just a string, right? So we're going to take that value initially when we first load the page. We'll take that string, and then we're going to create a pandas data frame from that CSV file. It's just a string, right? We'll do data double backslash because this app file is inside the save table folder. But the data set, we know that the data set is inside the data folder. So we have to go first into the data folder, double backslash, and then we'll give it the string, which is this one right here, Canada Finance Survey. Or if we choose the second one, if we go right here, dataset 1, we'll actually choose this dataset, and it will go right here, this dataset underscore 1, right? So this becomes a pandas data frame, and then we return, we do DFF to dict method, we're turning this to a dictionary, because this returns, all of this object returns to the row data property of the AG grid table. If you go to the row data property, you'll see it's none at the beginning, but after this callback is activated, this is returned, right? DFF to dict records. And that you need to know that is the row data property of an AG grid table will take pandas data frame with the toDict method. So this is how you read data into an AG grid table, right? So just as a quick summary, if I'm going to my new data CSV, it's actually taking the my new data CSV is taking the third element within the string. This becomes my new data CSV as a string. This becomes my new data CSV like that. Well, actually, it actually looks like, yep, like that. And then this becomes a new data frame from the read CSV of my new data CSV that is returned to the AG grid data. So that's why every time you choose something different, you see a new data set that is displayed inside the AG grid table. Okay, so that's how you retrieve data set to display in the table. How do we save our data? So it looks like a lot of outputs, but it's just an alert. This is the alerting ID. So if you go here, you see this ID is alerting, or whatever you want to call it. You can give it any other name. And we are going to need 3 different properties of the alert DBC component, right? The dash bootstrap component is open, children, and color. So children, or is open, will just activate. If it's true, it activates the alert. If it's false, it closes or it does not activate the alert. Duration means it's only going to be open for 2 seconds. See here, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, close. And color is the DBC color. Success is green, danger is red, and then children, none. We don't have anything in there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take one input, only the end clicks, only this button, the end clicks of this button, right, the save button. And we're going to say, make this clear for you. Great. And we're going to say, if this end button is clicked, then do something. Because these are states. And remember from an introduction to Dash, state is our data that is read inside the callback function, but does not trigger the callback. if this, what is this, save name value? This is the value of the text field, right? And this is the row data. This is the data of the AG grid. So if the data of the AG grid changes or the value of the field text field changes, the callback will not be triggered. It doesn't do anything to the callback. The callback will only be triggered when the button, this save button, is clicked. All right. So we have this n clicks refers to n. Value refers to the name, because we're going to call it name, and then this is the data of AG grid. So first, we'll see that if we refresh the app, we see prevent initial call, nothing will happen because we're preventing this callback from being triggered the first time. Even if n clicks is 0, it's not going to be triggered because prevent initial call true. And then we say print type name, just so we see. I just want to see what it looks like. Class none type. So this is the name here is none because we didn't put anything inside the text field. So if we say if name is none or the length of name is 0, because sometimes if you type something and you erase, it becomes a string or an empty string. So you see here class string. So we have to say if this is a none or an empty string, we don't want the app to save the data because there's no name. So we'll say if name is none or the length of the string is 0, I'm going to return 3 things because we have 3 outputs. The first will be true because we want to say true, true to is open is true, activate the alert. The second one will be the children, so we're actually going to give it no name provided. We're going to say it's going to be like this. Children, it'll be like no name provided. This is where it's going to go interactively. And danger is going to be the new color, right? So is open, children, color, true, the text of the children, and then the color. So it's going to be danger, danger, danger. It's going to be right here. Instead of success, this will be danger, right? So we return these 3. If it's none or string, save table, danger, no name provided, and it's activated because it's true. Now else, if it's not, if this, there is something in here, then we'll call this, let's change this to female, 10-year-old female, has a lot of money for a 10-year-old, and then we'll say children's data set, children's data, right? Now before I click the button, what's going to happen is when I click the button, it's going to read the data from AG grid, this whole data, remember from row data, turn it into a pandas data frame because it's just a list of dictionaries. We want to turn it into a pandas data frame. And in the pandas data frame, we want to save the data as a CSV sheet. And this is how you save pandas data frame into a CSV sheet on your computer. We'll save it with no index, and then we'll do DFF to CSV, and we're going to save it inside the data folder right here. See, there's 3 files. We'll give it the name, and it has to end with CSV because it is a CSV file. So whatever the name is, .csv. So this is going to be children's data. So this will be the name, like this, .csv. This is how it's going to look like. And then it will return true. It's going to activate the alert. It's going to give this children data save well done, and the color will be success, so it will be green. So let's save the data. Data save, well done, congratulations. And then if you go in here inside your computer again, you'll see now you have the new data set. My new data, no, children's data set. We can actually go here, children's data set, open it up, and we'll see the new data. Female is 10-year-old, which has a lot more money than I had when I was 10 years old. So that is it, everybody. I hope this was clear. I hope you understood. If you have any questions, please under the comments on YouTube. Remember to always install this version of AG Grid. Even if you're seeing this a few months from now, not a lot is going to change. But in order for this app to work correctly, just install the right version. and pretty excited because AG Grid is going to develop, and I'm going to try and create a lot more videos about AG Grid, teaching you how to do different things. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, join me on Patreon, or join me as a member on YouTube if you'd like to support this education that I provide. And always remember, we're better together, so help each other out. Until next time.